as someone on the left, I'm constantly aware that we need to be learning lessons all the time. And we see this a lot. For example, I have seen a lot of comments under my channel when I mentioned that I'm now, joined the Labour Party. A lot of people wishing me good luck or say, oh, I was Labour until Keir Starmer came in, or I left because of Keir Starmer. And I've always said, do not leave, because you can do far more with your foot in the door than you can with both feet outside it. And that rings so true in so many situations throughout politics. You can do more good and promote more change from within inside a party than you can outside, especially with the way that our current political system is turned up. And I am very, to be honest, sometimes I get very upset and disappointed in the left in the UK, because I wish they were half as turned on as like they are in France about politics, because then we would see so much change. And sometimes pragmatism can make all the difference. Sometimes you see some leftists out there who wish we could just go from like not to socialist in one single election cycle. That's not going to happen straight away. As much as I would like to see that happen, it's not going to happen straight away. We have to, as we say, take a very lukewarm approach, and then we can start to warm the water a bit more. So learning lessons, I think, is very crucial, because we are seeing, especially in our country, how much the media really is against us on so many of these topics. And I think if we are not careful, we are going to follow in a very similar path that they have in Poland and Hungary, where, if you think about it at the moment, the only real newspaper that is generally left is The Guardian. And you can say some of the Independent sometimes, but not all the time. So in terms of mainstream news, the only place you can go is really The Guardian, that one newspaper, and that's pretty much it. This is why alternative lefty news sources are so crucial. So again, we're going to go to the Byline Times today, talk about, again, the lessons that we need to learn on how we need to keep our press free and not the slippery slope that we seem to be going down. So before we jump into that, please do remember to hit the like and share button. Of course, there is my Patreon page below, should you like to support me that way. There is also my wonderful donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And thank you to all the people who do support me that way. So, as we said, to begin with, this comes from the Byline Times, and the title is The Slippery Slope Towards an Unfree Press. Lessons from Hungary and Poland. When Boris Johnson spoke to the 1922 committee of backbench MPs on the one-year anniversary of lockdown, it may have come as a surprise that he decided to devote a section of his address to comments about the BBC. Johnson accused the BBC of having a degree of instructive metropolitan bias in its newsroom and said, let's hope they learn from what their viewers and listeners want. He went on to state that it's pretty clear from the whole Brexit experience that the BBC was pretty much detached from a lot of its viewers and listeners, and I hope that they move into line. The comments come after numerous attacks on the BBC and its journalists in the last week that include the Conservative MP James Wilde criticising the design of the BBC's annual report, asking the BBC Director General whether he found it, quote, found it surprising that the document contained no images of the Union Jack. Again, that even confused me when I heard that comment. It's a report on the BBC. Why should there be a Union Jack in it? I don't understand. It just makes no sense. And flags were also spotlighted after the presenter recently was forced to apologise for liking tweets deemed offensive when her colleague when a colleague made an off-the-cuff remark about the size of a Union flag on display during an interview with Communities Secretary Robert Jerrick. Both the presenters were, quote, spoken to and reminded of their responsibilities. These incidents may seem trivial in isolation, but they form a pattern of behaviour that seeks to foment a culture war poisoning of a free and independent press as elitist and anti-patriotic. They sit atop a slippery slope that speeds toward undermining of the press freedom. And to see what it looks like at the bottom of that slope, we only have to turn east to recent events in Hungary. Over the last weekend, it was announced that 2 football commentators in Hungary would be leaving their TV jobs, having shown support for the Family is Family campaign for LGBTQ rights. The campaign follows a ban on gay adoption in Hungary, alongside wider attacks on the LGBTQ community. Johannes Hakura, I think that's how you say it, a former Hungarian national footballer, spoke out in favour for the Family is Family campaign and expressed solidarity for the footballer Peter Galaski, I think that's how you say it. The letter has been under fire after he wrote on Facebook that said, "Everyone has the right to equality, just as every child has the right to grow up in a happy family. That family should be made up of any number of people, of any gender, of any colour and any religion." Hakuta also has been fired from his role at Splinter TV, I think that's how you say it, where he worked there for over 3 years. The press department for TV2, which runs Spiller TV, said that there were other reasons behind the parties commenting on the separate paths. According to a Budapest Pride, a second commentator, Victor Lucas, has also been fired from his role at the TV channel M4 for expressing solidarity with them. The spokesperson for the Budapest Pride told the Byline Times, "We consider it particularly important that public actors, artists, athletes and celebrities take their intellectual responsibility and talk about public issues and draw attention to the majority of society to current social issues." The statements of Peter Gaskali and Johannes Hakura, I think that's how you say it, are extremely brave because they have stood up for the rights of a minority in an environment where that is not unusual to do so. Hungarian LGBTQ rights organisation, the Halter Society, told the Byline Times that firing 2 reporters because they have expressed their support for our Family is Family campaign is yet another example of the well-oiled machine that undermines everyone who dares go against the government's homophobic ideology. The message is clear. If anyone dares to defy the government's oppressive ideology, they will lose their jobs and livelihoods. The dismissal of the 2 commentators has put media independence in Hungary back into the spotlight, not least because of the press outlets involved are close to the government. H2TV is described as a pro-government media, loyal to the ruling Faduz party, I think that's how you say it. In 2019, it came under the influence of the Hungarian oligarch Lorak Malzeunus, when his close colleague Joseph Falda purchased the media portfolio of the Channel Group. Malzeunus is a childhood friend of Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and according to Forbes, he's a big player thanks to the contracts from the government. M4, where Lucas was a commentator, is a public channel run by the Media Service Support and Assets Management Fund, the government organisation controlled by the Media Council of Hungary. That same council has now announced that it will launch legal proceedings against RTL, the Hungary media group, after it aired the Family is Family campaign, a direct attack against both freedom of the press and the LGBT community in Hungary. And Hungary's media law includes a clause that public service broadcasting should promote respect for institutional and marriage and family values, and the council claims that programming was not suitable for children. And according to the Halter Society, for years, the Fidesz-controlled public-controlled media has suppressed every mention of any LGBTQ-related issues. The move has been criticised by members of the European Parliament, who, in an open letter to the European Commission, described the illegal threat as causing a chilling effect on media freedom and freedom of expression in the country, as well as leading to the further discrimination against the LGBTI people. The firings and legal proceedings following the closure of the Curb Radio, one of the few remaining independent broadcasters in Hungary. Curb Radio was often critical of the government, and its closure was decided by the Media Council. One journalist speaking anonymously explained how she quit journalism because she wanted a more stable career path. This was the indirect consequence of government suppression. If the government had not distorted any of the media landscape in the past years, I'm pretty sure I would have not have made this decision, she said. But unfortunately, there are very few independent media outlets there that are left and that are still out there that have to operate in greater financial and existential uncertainty. Hungary's fellow far-right authoritarian government in Poland has also hit the headlines in recent days after the writer and journalist Jacob Zaluski was charged for making offensive and unacceptable comments about President Dula. Zaluk also called the president a moron on Facebook, and Poland has made it a crime to insult state leaders, and Zelk has faced up to 3 years in prison if found guilty. Earlier this month, the editor-in-chief of the of Aragon, the Adam Miski, wrote to the European Union asking its leaders to defend free press in Poland, saying that they are witnessing a creeping coup d'etat in Poland, and he claims that the Polish media, being free and appropriated, has turned into a propaganda machine, while independent press like Agora is treated as the enemy and attacked with hatred, as we saw from the speeches of former US President Donald Trump. The intervention follows the buying up of the Polska Press media group by oil giant Orlen, and as well as a proposed tax and advertising that seeks to undermine press influence and independence, as in the protest in tax last month on TV, radio and stations and newspapers across Poland joined forces to condemn attempts to destroy the independent media. Radio ZTE suspended its normal programming to repeat the message, "We are protesting so that you can convince yourselves what Poland will look like without an independent media. We apologise to you and our listeners and our business partners for today in the changed schedule, but we have no choice." So, as you can see, two countries where it looks like that's how it started, with bizarre comments about being, not being, shall we say, not being very patriotic and not supporting the government. And we are starting to see Boris Johnson and other Conservatives making attacks on the BBC like this. And even though the BBC is a, public funded and it is technically a sort of government funded body, it should always remain fiercely independent. And I am a big believer that should be in line with the BBC. But it's funny that they say, oh, the BBC was out of line with Brexit. The BBC wasn't out of line of Brexit at all. For every single Remainer they had on there was at least 2 or 3 more Brexiteers. We've seen the research before that the pro-Brexit side got more of an airing on the BBC than it even did. Not only that, how many times has Nigel Farage appeared on Question Time? I've said it before, if you were an outside person, you would be pretty convinced that Nigel Farage was almost the only member of UKIP there ever was. So once again, this whole idea of, the media being left-wing or being controlled by people in the left-wing is just complete false. And again, it's the government trying to push a very false narrative, and indeed a very dangerous narrative, because as we've seen in Poland and Hungary, that isn't a direction we should be going. So, as always, we need to learn those lessons, and we need to learn them quick, and we need to learn how to fight back against them. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.